He's taking it to the house. Touchdown, Oregon. Wow.
Ball is loose.
Fires it down the middle.
Touchdown, Stanford. Stanford goes back in front.
Oregon and Stanford hook up. Game day will be there, and it was a year ago, men, when down on the farm, Oregon went down and ruined all the hopes that Andrew Luck and that team had. Stanford would dearly love to come north and do the same thing, Mark. Do they have the chops on defense to slow that Oregon offense down?
They definitely do. And to disrupt a passing offense, the best thing you can do is get to the quarterback. And particularly if you can get to him with your down lineman, big advantage for this Stanford defense. Keep an eye on defensive tackle Ben Gardner right here. Terrific swim move. These guys are terrific technicians in the Stanford front four. Yes, they have linebackers that can get to the quarterback and Trent Murphy, but their defensive line, they know how to get to the quarterback. And look how fast he gets to the quarterback right there. Matt Barkley never knew what hit him in less than 3 seconds. Getting to the quarterback, that's an athletic defensive lineman right there rushing upfield. And again, on the other side of the line, Josh Morrow gets to the quarterback just as efficiently. And they're doing this from the tackle position. These guys can play defensive end, but they move them inside in passing situations. Easier to get to the quarterback, and he just splits two offensive linemen right there. And here's the key to this defense. And as you look at their head coach, and David Shaw, his philosophy is just like Al Davis. The quarterback must go down, and he must go down hard. And he must go down multiple times, and they're the best in the nation of doing that. 42 sacks on the season.
A whole lot of number ones over there in FBS rank in terms of slowing down the running game, in terms of getting to the quarterback. All that is a nice recipe and presents some challenges. Brian, how tough a challenge do they present?
We all know how explosive the Oregon rushing attack has been all year long. But for 65 yards in the first half last week against California, before they broke out in the second half, what did California do well to stop Oregon, and what were the adjustments that Chip Kelly made in the second half? Let's go back and take a look. You're going to see a lot of 8- and 9-man fronts from California, as well as Josh Hill coming downhill, both sides of the formation, to stop the rushing attack from Kenyon Barner. It worked perfectly for California in the first half as Josh Hill got in the hole time after time and got to Kenyon Barner. And you start to feel good about yourself if you're Josh Hill. And then what does Chip Kelly do? He comes right back with play action. Here's Josh Hill in the same alignment, and we're going to have a naked over route right behind him. Very difficult to play this offense when you start to incorporate the play action game with this potent rushing attack. The other thing that I saw, these 8-man fronts, as you start to get all these guys in the middle, look how much space there is in between the receiver and the defender. Very effective in stopping the rush. As you see again, Josh Hill will get in the hole and stop Kenyon Barner. But how do you sacrifice the play action game and the passing game? Same look, same formation. Here it is, 2-on-2 at the top. Here's Josh Hill. What does Chip Kelly do? Now I'm going to take play action and throw it over the top on a post route. If you're going to play Oregon this way, you've got to be able to defend downfield, because Marcus Mariota is starting to make better and better decisions as time goes on. You're going to bring pressure from both sides to stop the perimeter game. Marcus Mariota reads it well. He's reading the defense up here at the top. This is too big of a hole to give this offense. You get that ball on the receiver, they have the talent to make you miss and score. Very difficult to stop this rushing game, and when you put Marcus Mariota in the passing game, all of a sudden, 6 touchdowns last weekend. What is Stanford going to decide to do? Stop the run or stop Mariota? It's a very difficult question to answer, Scott.
Brian, appreciate that. And the context that you get when you talk about this Oregon offense is just how difficult it is. Do you try to slow down the run? Do you try to slow down the pass? And this year, basically, Oregon's taken their foot off the gas in second halves of a ton of games because they haven't had to score. Had Kenyon Barner on today on ESPN Radio, and I asked him, do you and your teammates ever openly discuss the possibility that if you really just tried for 60 minutes, maybe you'd score 100?
I don't know about anybody else, but I definitely have. I kind of just sit and think, what if, when? You sometimes catch yourself wondering, I wonder if we could put up 100 points or, anything around that. I think this offense definitely could. You always get bummed out when you have to punt, especially when you want to score on every possession, and that's just the mindset that this team has, from an offensive standpoint. Anytime we touch the ball, we're looking to score. Anytime that we have to punt or kick a field goal, we are extremely disappointed within ourselves.
They're not disappointed much. Hyundai wants you to show it your loyalty. We ask fans to weigh in on this, and David Pollack also a guest on ESPN Radio today, said it's amazing that Oregon and Chip Kelly at one time had both Mariota and Manziel committed to them. That's true. Johnny Football was once an Oregon commitment. The Quack Cave isn't as impressed, tweeting, "Age ain't nothing but a number. Mariota nearly flawless, posting big-time stats. Johnny who? Well, that's not necessary." And an Alabama fan tweeted, "This weekend we are all Stanford Cardinal fans. Beat Oregon." Now, Barner wasn't saying they're going to get 100 this week, just that they would love to shot at it just going for 60 minutes. And just, you want to know the kind of perspective and respect that these guys get out in Vegas for what that's worth. They're 3 touchdown favorites to beat Stanford. 3 touchdowns, not 3 points, 3 touchdowns. What has to happen, Brian, for the road team to have a chance?
Well, they won by 23 points last year, and that was on the farm. So 21 points is obviously right. I mean, this is a team that for all year has run the ball so well. And then last week, 377 yards and 6 touchdowns from their quarterback. And Mark, I just don't think that the Stanford Cardinals, as good as they are in the front 7, will be able to stop the perimeter game and then the game down the field in the passing.
They're going to be under a lot of pressure in this game because remember, against Arizona, they gave up over 600 yards offense, over 40 points in that game. And they're a very good offense, but they're not at the level that Oregon is, and they run the same type of offense.
And we mentioned Barner. Obviously, he is a Heisman contender for sure. Time to dive in now to some Heismanology, as you'll see Stanford and Oregon coming up this Saturday night, and game day there earlier. Joe Tess with some thoughts on the guys leading the way for the hard way.
Let's get right to it and show you the results of official Heisman voters polled here at ESPN, because we had a lot of movement this week. Not on top. Colin Klein still #1, just the way he's been since he defeated West Virginia back in October. But Johnny Football, after toppling Alabama up there to 2, and USC's Marquise Lee now #3. And let's go to our Heisman history touchscreen to discuss the chances of a freshman and a wide receiver at this point in the season. And let's start by talking about freshmen. In 2004, we had Adrian Peterson. Back in 1980, we had Herschel Walker. But you can go all the way back to 1942 when Georgia's Frank Sinkwich won the Heisman Trophy to make a favorable comparison to Johnny Football. Little-known Clint Castleberry from Georgia Tech. Freshmen weren't eligible back then. Oh, but they were in 1942 because of World War II, and they needed players to round out rosters. And Castleberry took a Georgia Tech team and defeated a Notre Dame team that hadn't lost in 2 years, much like Johnny Football just toppled an Alabama team that's been thought of as invincible for the better part of the past 2 years. As for the argument for a wide receiver and what we're seeing out of Marquise Lee, let's go back to 2003. Much like Colin Klein, a Big 12 quarterback, aimed for the BCS title game. Jason White won the Heisman Trophy. But many feel the winner should have been the star wide receiver. Larry Fitzgerald dominated his position, much the way Marquise Lee is dominating wide receiver play this year for the Trojans. Notable games this week. Lee's got a spotlight game against UCLA. But the guy who could be the biggest mover of all wasn't even in the top 5 this week. Marcus Mariota at Oregon, facing that well-respected Stanford defense. ABC, 8 o'clock Saturday.
Thanks, Tess.
The big game, Oregon, Stanford coming to visit. You are the Oracle. Is there any reason for us to seriously think about an upset in this game?
Well, if you look at what Stanford has done the last couple weeks, it gives them hope that they have found a quarterback to replace Andrew Luck. Kevin Hogan is a redshirt freshman. He's only been playing the last couple weeks. He didn't play early in the year when they played Notre Dame. And his athletic ability, I think, gives them some versatility on offense. That's been missing. They've just been running the football. You'll see in this game, Kevin Hogan with the play-action game, the ability to create and try to get away from pressure. So I think that gives Stanford some hope. And the other big thing is their defense has been outstanding against the run. Their front 7 is as physical as any defense you're going to see. And they also get pressure on the quarterback. They lead the nation in sacks. The big issue here, Tony, is can they defend Oregon in space? Because that's been the challenge for them the last couple years. They've hung around, even with Andrew Luck, but Luck didn't play on defense, and they'd get exposed in the secondary. They've made a major upgrade in that area. Now it's a matter of just going out and playing and seeing if they are, in fact, faster trying to defend DeAnthony Thomas and Kenyon Barner and all the speed that the Ducks have.
You correctly predicted weeks ago that that A&M would give Alabama a lot more trouble than LSU. I wasn't so prescient as you were. But what other bold predictions do you have about the remaining unbeaten teams?
The three unbeatens up at the top right now, I guess I would say this. Everybody's talking about what if Kansas State or what if Oregon or what if Notre Dame loses. How is this going to play out? You could make at least a decent argument that all three have a challenge. If you start with Kansas State, they have Baylor this week. They're going to get by Baylor. The big game, I think, of course, is Texas at home. Texas has a great athletic ability. The game's in Manhattan with everything at stake. Kansas State could be tested in that one. Notre Dame plays at USC next week. That will be a challenging game for that Notre Dame team against the athletic ability that SC has. And for Oregon, it's not just Stanford this weekend. Next week in a rivalry game on the road in Corvallis, that also could be a tester. So all three of these teams are far from being done with trying to finish off their undefeated seasons.
Should we count the SEC out of the title game?
Not yet. Not yet. They need two of the three in front of them to lose. And we just talked about how all three of these teams have a challenge. If two of these three end up getting beat, and all of a sudden that game in Atlanta between Georgia and Alabama, the winner of that game could get back into the national championship. So if there's one thing we all should have learned starting back in '98 to this year, it's that when you get to these games in November, you don't just look at them on paper. These players, they feel the pressure from the outside world. They can talk about it, how they don't listen. It's baloney. They feel it. They're human. They're 18 to 22-year-old kids. So when they go out there and they're playing with everything at stake, and the team they're playing has nothing at stake, and they're taking chances, there are upsets. So if you're an Alabama fan or a Georgia fan, there is still hope that the two of those three could end up losing.
We will get you out of here on this. You are out in Oregon. There are all sorts of reports and indications that Chip Kelly could bolt to the NFL after this season. What do you think his chances are to succeed in the NFL?
Well, I think the one thing that people right away look at Chip Kelly and they think, well, I don't know about that offense in the NFL. And I've talked with Chip about this in the past. You're not going to see him, if he does go up to the NFL, bring his exact same offensive style with a running quarterback into the NFL. He's a bright guy, and he understands that running that kind of offense, the quarterback would just take too many hits, and he wouldn't survive very long in the NFL. So he would tweak his offense to make it work in the NFL. I personally think Chip Kelly's great for the college game, and I hope he stays in Eugene, Oregon for a long time. But you just never know. You're right. I mean, you listen to Mort and some of these guys around the country who are dialed into the NFL. It's almost become a foregone conclusion that after this year, he's going to be at the top of almost every NFL franchise's wish list. So we hope he stays in college, but if he goes up to the NFL, I'd expect him to have success, and obviously he'll have to tweak that offense to make it work at the next level.
Thank you so much for joining us, Kirk.
On defense with injury, don't worry about that. They can just outscore you each and every week. I'm going with an Oregon in this game. They're going to win easily.
Mark, you're wrong on this one. I'm picking Stanford in an upset, and here's the reason why. Number one, Stanford's outstanding on defense. They're giving up 2 yards a try. They have 91 tackles for loss. They're number one in sacks. Oregon's great on offense, but what people don't realize, Oregon has lost 7 defensive starters. For the 3rd year in a row, Gameday is going to be at this game. That's never happened before, because for 3 years, they've been nationally ranked. Stanford's won the last 2, or lost the last 2. They will not lose this one. In an upset, Stanford beats them. And the young quarterback has done a tremendous job. Threw for 254 yards last week in his first start and 3 touchdowns. Look for Stanford to win this one.
Coach, maybe you missed it when Stanford played Arizona, and that was at Stanford on the farm. And Arizona's not as good as Oregon. They run the same type of offense. They put up over 40 points and over 600 yards offense on that Stanford defense. The Ducks are playing at Autzen. They don't lose there. They will have over 450 yards offense, guaranteed probably 500 in this game. They will not slow down this offense because you can either run it with Kenyon Barner or you can throw it and run it with Marcus Mariota, and no one stopped this offense yet.
Oh, I want to tell you, I love you like a brother, Mark, but obviously you don't listen. You didn't listen to what my record was compared to yours. There's a reason I'm more successful, because I evaluate the teams adequately.
Loves you like a brother, scolds you like a father.
They've been close games at halftime before the Ducks have sprinted away, and they are 3-2
touchdown favorites to keep the BCS train rolling and win the Pac-12 North. Desmond and Kirk alongside. Couple issues. Oregon's health. Kenyon Barner's got a splint on his thumb. The bigger concern on defense, Kirk, but they're just trying to keep guys healthy.
Yeah, they are, but I think they feel pretty good about where they are with their front, and that's an important matchup because Stanford is a big, powerful running team. Kevin Hogan now gives them a little bit more versatility because of the play-action game. But I think the thing that everybody wants to see is for Stanford to come to Autzen Stadium, it's not just about their offense. It's about their defense, trying to contain all that speed that Oregon has because, as we've seen in recent years, that's where they've struggled out in space.
Yeah, you know, they need to keep everything in front of them. You got outside linebackers, Chase Thomas, Trent Murphy. Those guys are excellent players. I love the way they play defense. Very aggressive. That 3-4 alignment that they come with, they are very aggressive. They're, an attacking unit, and they're actually #1 in the country against the rush. They only allow their opponents 2 yards per carry.
They'll try to come after Marcus Mariota, the freshman quarterback who's moved himself into the Heisman conversation. We keep waiting for him to have his freshman moment. It hasn't happened, and Kelly doesn't expect it. It didn't expect it Saturday night.
No, he's played with tremendous poise. And teams, when you look at Oregon, they can run and they can throw, and the quarterback can run and throw. Right. So teams typically load up to stop the run, and if Stanford loads up to stop the run, like Cal did last week, then Mariota's going to have a chance not just to make plays with his feet, but with his arm.
Stanford, a huge underdog, a 3-touchdown underdog in this showdown that basically will decide the Pac-12 North.
ESPN College Game Day. To your city. Well, we're coming to your city. Will we string down some roll time, roll those big foot, had a ball down on the back, even on the beat. We saw blue turf and the tomahawk chop, and the gators look strong. Yeah, big Suey, those damn cops, they all got game. Irish battling Buckeyes and USC and Bevo too. Aggies, Huskers, let's go Dogs and TCU. Coming on to your city. And if you want a little zing in your zang zang, if you want a little tang in your twang twang, come along, come along, come along, come along. Yeah, we're coming to your city.
College Game Day, live from Eugene, Oregon, is built by the Home Depot, proud sponsor of college football's premier pregame show.
Wet and Wild Eugene, where Friday night just blends seamlessly into Saturday morning. Welcome to Memorial Quad, one of our favorite settings, one of the few business centers anywhere that has a big logo on the front of it. A glow-in-the-dark O as these folks count down to kick off, brimming with confidence that the Ducks can once again smack down the Stanford Cardinals. We visit this rivalry for the 3rd consecutive year on College Game Day. Only about 3 or 4 hours to sunrise here in Eugene.
They've been ready, though.
Bill Fowler, Desmond Howard, David Pollack, and Kirk Herbstreit. They are always ready to impose themselves on a visitor in Autzen Stadium where Stanford comes in with a freshman quarterback. We'll get to the specifics in a second, but you guys get the feeling that maybe something else is going to happen this Saturday. A week ago was Alabama going down at the hands of Johnny Football.
I do. I really do. I think that Alabama losing puts a lot of pressure on some teams that aren't used to being in this spot, especially Kansas State going to Waco. It's going to be an interesting Saturday of football.
I think one thing we continue to talk about in November is you look at these matchups on paper, like Baylor and Kansas State, and you think, there's no way Baylor's going to be able to play with Kansas State. Right. But as we learned, and A&M and Bama was a different case. I mean, A&M's a great team, but as we know, the pressure mounts, and as Des said, some of these teams are in uncharted territory. You wonder how they can deal with it. Notre Dame, Kansas State, this is new to them. Oregon's kind of in their DNA. They're used to it.
And you look at those teams that are all behind that are lurking. They all got some peeking. They all peeking. They're all from a certain conference that nobody wants to see get back in the mix.
That's
but
right.
They all seem to have a pretty soft schedule this week, too. Kind of bye weeks for everybody.
I know you'd bring it to the SEC.
Yeah, well, official bye week. They're like this. They're peeking back there.
Yeah, they're certainly hoping that maybe Stanford could upset the Ducks, who have some serious injury concerns. Their stud safety, Avery Patterson, of course, he's out. Wade Kelly-Kippy, the defensive lineman, out. The good news is many of the other guys that have been injury questions look like they could be good to go tonight.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And if you're Oregon, it's the next guy up. But the next guy up for them is defending Kevin Hogan. A lot of people don't know much about him. Last 2 starts, he's moved the offense efficiently, a dual threat quarterback. They needed somebody. Josh Nunez hasn't been doing what he needed to do. And this guy, Super Marcus Mariota, has been on fire. 47 of 57 the last 2 weeks. 10 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. The man is on point right now.
It's kind of an anomaly in the BCS era because the Wildcats are not #1 in the polls. That's Oregon. Not #1 in the computers. That's Notre Dame. But overall, the Cats are #1. And those 2 teams would seem to be in the pole position, with Brian Kelly trying to lobby a little bit, trying to pile up some style points if he can in the final couple of games. But really, it seems like unless the trend gets reversed, Kirk, it's up to the Ducks and the Cats to handle business.
It is, and Notre Dame sitting there hoping for an upset. I don't think Notre Dame has any concern today against Wake Forest because of the scare that they had a couple weeks ago. I think that probably was enough of a wake-up call. It's the last home game in South Bend in a magical year. So I think if you're thinking about who potentially slips up of these top 3 teams, I think you got to talk about the possibility of Kansas State and Waco, or can Stanford come on the road and surprise everybody by being able to knock off the Ducks.
And especially if you look at Kansas State, they're banged up. I mean, talk about Lockett being banged up, Zimmerman being banged up.
Yep.
Zimmerman is the guy in the back end, too. He's not the most athletic guy, but he's the quarterback. He creates turnovers. Oklahoma game, he had 2 turnovers. Their team is predicated on turnovers. They don't play great defense, pass defense especially. Nick Florence, #1 in the country in pass offense, #1 in total offense. They better be ready to score some points. Colin Klein can earn the good news is Baylor gives up 40. Colin Klein can earn the Heisman.
I don't want to pile on Kansas State, but, I think I'm concerned with Tyler Lockett not playing. See, to me, every Batman needs his Robin, and Tyler Lockett was the Robin to Colin Klein's Batman. Field position, 2 kickoff returns for touchdowns. He was a difference maker for Kansas State because Colin Klein got so much attention. He's the Heisman front runner. I think people took for granted what Lockett brought to that team. That's going to be a really interesting game in Waco against Baylor.
They're hoping he can go. He's dealing with an ankle. He's not officially out, but even if he does go, a guy that relies on his speed, you wonder if he can go on that ankle. It is an injury concern. Injuries piling up for Oregon and for Kansas City as they try to navigate through a weekend that last year produced upsets of Oklahoma State and also of the Ducks. If you're watching on SportsCenter, we send you back now to the studio. And, of course, here on ESPNU, we will steamroll toward the top of the hour, and Samantha Steele will take you towards it. Samantha, good morning.
Hi, Chris. They just took my umbrella away. So now I'm just hanging out in the rain in a white coat. Can you tell I'm from the desert? We've got a lot more coming up on College Game Day. So much talk. You're looking at the Schnitzer Museum. That's just fun to say, so I want to say it again, Schnitzer. It's also known as the Throne Room. It's the most visited building on campus, which is shocking because it has nothing to do with Oregon football, guys. There is plenty of enthusiasm about Oregon football around here these days. Welcome back to College Game Day. We are now joined by Desmond Howard. Thanks for making us look better. Guys, have you seen a morning crowd this enthusiastic? I mean,
no.
The definition of morning people, or late night people, I guess.
Late night people.
True. Maybe the late night people.
This is tame for usual out here. I mean, these guys fighting the rain.
This is impressive. No, I think they're where they belong. I think that for them to be in the top 2 means that they're more deserving than either Kansas State or Oregon. And I don't think so, especially when you struggle at home against teams who you should smash. So, no, I think number 3 is where they belong. I'm comfortable with them at number 3.
Struggle against Pitt, Boston College. Struggle. I mean, they have struggled. I mean, their body of work, and you look at they didn't play in the FCS teams. They've done a good job. Their defense is one of the best in the country. But no, Notre Dame doesn't belong ahead of Kansas State or Oregon. At this point, it's not about how great Notre Dame is. Is it about have they been better than Oregon and Kansas State? I can't say that. I think Oregon and Kansas State have been better up until this point.
But has Oregon beaten a better team than Oklahoma? We saw Notre Dame beat an Oklahoma team that's pretty impressive. Has Oregon been able to do that?
What about when they beat Stanford, who's a common opponent today, and they beat it by a lot worse?
We're predicting
How about that?
future now.
When they beat Stanford, who was a common opponent today, by 20 points, then what do you say?
All right, then I'll let you say that next week.
They beat
Today,
USC.
that hasn't happened.
Yeah.
All right, coming up, Trevor Maddich is actually going to break down this Oregon offense, and Todd McShay on what puts Monte Ball in the elite category of runners.
Autzen Stadium is one of the toughest environments to play in. That overhang above the stadium, that sound reverberates right back down on the field where you are.
The whole game, you can't hear the snap call, can't hear audibles or anything like that. You pretty much just watching the ball.
Can't even hear yourself think. I mean, that's probably the loudest place that we've ever been.
They hate you. They don't even know, but they hate you, and it's great.
You know, where else in the country yells "oh" the whole entire time, so it's a different sound.
It's one of those home field advantages that you have to prepare for. You have to prepare for at your own place with your own noise machines, etc.
If you can get a win in Eugene, you can get a win anywhere.
If they have any voices left after this morning since 4 a.m. screaming, that will be impressive tonight. There's a live look at our Cheez-It Real Fan Cam. Fans braving the wind and rain to be out there with us this morning. Now, despite how big this game feels, the truth is in the last two meetings, it hasn't been much of a game at all. Stanford was outscored by Oregon a combined 105-61 in those two games, and that was with Andrew Luck. So imagine being Kevin Hogan in your first career start on the road at Autzen Stadium against a number 2 ranked team, and these fans yelling at you. The bright side for him, to say the Ducks defense is, well, I guess they're not at full strength. They have 7 starters possibly not playing in this game. So it won't be impossible to score on this defense. What could be impossible is trying to keep up with an offense that has scored 21 touchdowns in a minute or less this season.
It's going to be a big game. It's a hostile environment against our rivals in the Pac-12 North.
You know, it's a big game against a ranked opponent against Stanford. You know, it's a conference game. We know it's two teams that want a big goal.
It's going to be one of those nights where it's going to be pretty crazy out there.
Oh, there's just going to be energy in the air. Right now, it's getting our guys ready, hopefully, to play their best game of the season.
We're coming off 2 road games, and now we get to come home. Autzen will be crazy. Autzen will be unbelievable.
It's going to be loud. It's definitely the loudest stadium we play in every year. You can you feel it as well as hear it.
It'll be electric. The atmosphere will be great. You know, you'll want to be a part of this.
Interesting matchup to watch when the Stanford rush D faces Oregon's rush offense. Stanford is holding opponents to an FBS best 58.6 rushing yards per game and has not allowed an opponent to rush for more than 150 this season. But Oregon has rushed for at least 180 yards in every game it's played this year and has averaged 285 rush yards per game in 3 games against Stanford under Chip Kelly. Time to find out who is on the hook from Bass Pro Shops. That would be Stanford's defense up against an Oregon offense that we know a lot about. Time to welcome in Trevor Maddich. Now, Trevor, I know you've been breaking down a little film on this Oregon offense. What stands out, especially when you look at the zone read that they've been running so well?
Sam, this Oregon offense looks like water pushing against a berm, looking for a weak spot. Just when you think you have them stopped, they'll break your heart. And they start usually on the inside. They'll start with that zone read. The initial read is often the defensive end. And if he crashes down inside to stop the inside run, no problem at all. They'll pull that ball out once they make this read, and they'll hit the next spot, just like that water rolling along outside. Now, you think you have them stopped cold at this point because you stopped the first read. Now you come up in the alley with the guy to tackle the quarterback, and they break your heart again, because he's got another friend who's standing out at the outside. And so all they need to do is get the ball out someplace where there's only one guy who can make a play. And if that guy fails to make the play, it could be a touchdown. And so what you've got here is an effect on the defense that it forces them to stay wide. so that they can't gang up at any particular place. And that's one of the reasons they have so many one-on-one matchups in space.
It's an absolute pain in the neck. You watch it, there's an answer for everything you do defensively. It's so hard to stop. That's what they've been doing for years, the offense. Now, here's why the offense is different. This quarterback is better than anybody Chip Kelly's had. He reads defenses exceptionally well. Gets from 1 to 2 to 3 a lot of times. Colt Lyerla, one of the better tight ends in the country, can stretch the field. Look how fast Mariota decides to make a decision and fit it in between two guys. When you run the ball as well as they have, look at the play action. Look at what it does to the linebackers. Look at all the guys. One guy going right, one guy going left. One guy coming to the bottom, one guy coming to the top. Who are you going to defend? Oh, by the way, now they're going to make you defend the deep ball, which in the past they haven't made you defend. Marcus Mariota is the best quarterback Chip Kelly's had. He's just chill, nothing bothers him, nothing rattles him, and he knows this offense. He's known this offense since the week he's been on campus.
Yeah, you know, I have to give Chip Kelly a lot of credit, though. He's always just developing these young quarterbacks. He put them in, and they never miss a beat. But how about Stanford's defense? I think this is going to be the toughest defense that the Oregon Ducks have faced so far this season. When you look at Chase Thomas, Trent Murphy, these guys are outstanding outside linebackers. And I know if you paid attention to the statistics, but it's not LSU's defense, it's not Alabama's, not even Manti Te'o or Notre Dame's defense. It's Stanford's defense that's #1 against the rush in the country. Opponents only average 2 yards per rush against that defense. So I think it's going to be an interesting matchup.
It will be interesting.
Spread you out.
Well, and to see, we saw that Cal was a little bit successful against them, at least in the first half. Slowed their
and then they go,
down
now we'll throw it.
Yeah, exactly.
And Cal was kind of physical with them, too. Knocked out Mariota for a couple of plays, knocked out Barner for a couple of plays. They don't like teams being physical with them.
And the end result was not even close.
No.
All right, coming up on College Game Day, we'll hear from Brett Bielema and Todd McShay. Goes inside Monte Ball's game. Hear how Baylor can upset Kansas State, too.
On the Hook is brought to you by Bass Pro Shops. Your adventure starts here.
If you want a little ting in your tang, come along, come along, come along, come along. Yeah, we're coming to your city.
They are ready to go in Eugene, braving the rain and getting their voices ready for Autzen Stadium tonight when Stanford comes to town.
Dynamic players in college football, but their resume doesn't say anything more than what Notre Dame. Notre Dame's done a lot more.
Speaking of dynamic players, Johnny Football, the legend is growing across the country. Tails are tallest in College Station, Texas. G. Wojciechowski clears it all up when we come back.
Is brought to you by AT&T. Follow Will and Ravi as they tackle challenges to get into the biggest game every week at waytosaturday.com.
A reminder to all you fans out there, tweet your sign to hashtag CGD Signs and stay tuned later in the show where we will reveal our winner. Brought to you by AT&T. Joe Tessitore's ESPN Heismanology. Then Johnny Manziel, of course, after that big performance against Alabama. Colin Klein stays on top. And then Marquise Lee has actually gone back and forth a lot, getting a lot more love right now. But Kenyon Barner splitting votes with Marcus Mariota. Fans behind me probably not too happy about that. But David, are you buying in? Everybody's talking Johnny Football, the legend now of Johnny Football. So has he done enough for you to be a legit Heisman candidate?
Johnny?
Yes.
He's done enough to be a legit candidate, but I am so frustrated when everybody moves him to the top of the ballot and they don't take into consideration that this is a seasonal award. What did you do all year? Most outstanding player in college football. He had 3 turnovers in a game against LSU. He had the ball last. He had a chance to win. He didn't come through. So I understand that Johnny Manziel last week put on one of the best performances through the season, but that doesn't move him all of a sudden to the top of the Heisman ballot as #1.
Yeah, I agree with you. Johnny Manziel, to me, to put it in hip-hop terms, he was like the underground rapper with a lot of hits underground, but he finally had a mainstream hit, and then everybody thinks he's the best rapper in the world now. I think that Johnny Manziel is a heck of a football player. I think that he, after the Florida game, and like David said, after the LSU game, no one was talking about him for the Heisman. He has a chance to build on his momentum from the Alabama game. But I like Marquise Lee. Marquise Lee is a victim of the same circumstance that Monte Ball found himself last year. When Wisconsin had Russell Wilson, they had a strong push. USC did the same thing at the beginning of the season. For Matt Barkley, pushed him. Marquise Lee is steadily having a fantastic season, but now it's almost too late because they've put so much attention on Matt Barkley, his teammate, and now he's steadily trying to get back into the race. But there's no doubt in my mind, every time I see Marquise Lee play, I'm watching the most outstanding player, if not one of them, at least one of the most outstanding players in college football.
But wide receivers can't win very often. I mean, it's extremely hard to do.
If they would have pushed this kid out the gate, he would be like number 2 or number 1.
Larry Fitzgerald not winning years and years ago was the biggest mind-blowing thing as well.
Yeah, in Johnny Football's defense, though,
what's his
Robert Griffin III, last year, they lost some big games, too. He took advantage of the momentum towards the end of the season.
They're going to have to score points, and we saw Baylor.
That's it? You've got to score points?
We saw Baylor. We saw Baylor in West Virginia, 70-63. They didn't have a problem scoring points, but I think when you look at this offense, Nick Florence, #1 in the country, yards per game. Lake Seastrunk, a former Oregon guy, transferred in. Remember, he's playing now. The last 2 weeks, he's got 300 yards, almost 300 yards rushing. They've got more balance. They got to outscore him. When you've got a defense that's that bad, you've got to put up at least.
That's the only choice.
Only one top 15 matchup today, but a lot of chances for upsets coming up when we get back. Don't miss reports from Waco, Ann Arbor, and Madison. Plus, find out who's on upset alert when we reveal our early Saturday selections. I do not think the bookstore is open right now. If it is, maybe you can get a little rain gear out here. It's been raining this morning. A whole lot of football coming up today for some big upsets, some ruined seasons maybe. The biggest would be in Waco, Texas.
I'm Heather Cox for College Game Day. Here in Eugene, the stakes are high. The big question for the Ducks is, can their defense really fight through a rash of injuries? Defensive tackle Wade Kaliakipi is out, but the other 4 linemen that were questionable are all expected to play. Now, as for the secondary, Avery Patterson is out and leaving the cupboard bare to the point that DeAnthony Thomas and backup quarterback Brian Bennett both took snaps in the secondary at practice this week. Stanford redshirt freshman quarterback Kevin Hogan will be making his first road start here in Eugene. People are calling him the young Andrew Luck. In fact, Andrew Luck called David Shaw on Sunday to say how much Hogan looks like Luck did when he first arrived on campus. And now they're hoping for the same results.
And time to make some picks of our own. Well, really just thinking of strong front seven. Stanford comes to Eugene to play Oregon. I know they're ready for that one behind me. So, David, do you go with the team that has blown out Stanford the last 2 years? It hasn't even been close.
So let me get this straight. Stanford versus Oregon. We saw this last year. Andrew Luck was the quarterback.
A little different
He
now.
couldn't do it.
Right.
In Stanford.
Right.
Oregon wins big against Stanford. Quack, quack.
I think it's going to be closer than the experts think. I think that Stanford's going to play great defense. They're going to control the ball with Kevin Hogan running the ball and throwing the ball. He's been able to find his tight ends, one thing that Josh Nunez could not do. But I do think that the Oregon Ducks will win this game.
What do you mean closer than the experts think? Aren't you guys the experts?
I'm talking about the guys in Vegas.
Oh,
The experts think it's going to be
those experts.
It's not going to be that
College
close.
Game Day, you can head on over to ESPN or stick right here with my girl Cassidy Hubbard at Sports Nation. Thanks, Samantha. We'll have a lot more from the Stanford-Oregon game there in Eugene.
Two different offenses, two different teams. You have a team that's kind of old smash mouth that can run the ball like K-State, plays really, really good defense. And then you have the dynamics of that offense of Oregon and seeing how they can put up 60 points at any time. I think that's the matchup a lot of people want to see, I want to see. But an interesting matchup would be Oregon versus Texas A&M.
Oh, listen, that's not even part of the question, okay? So listen, the most compelling, the most interesting game that people want to see is Notre Dame, Oregon. You have the highest scoring offense in the country, the best total defense in the country at Notre Dame. Imagine that Notre Dame's defense trying to slow down Oregon's offense and Oregon's offense going against that defense. More importantly, the eyeballs how many eyeballs would be watching this game with all the fans that Notre Dame has, and the ratings would be through the roof.
I want to see Alabama, Oregon.
Okay.
Because the SEC.
She's an SEC girl.
Straight national
She's an SEC girl.
Can we not have a conversation without saying, talking about the
legit,
SEC?
They need to grab it out of the hands of the SEC. All I'm saying.
I understand.
Nation, what say you? Is Notre Dame, Oregon the matchup people want to see? I think K-State, Oregon people right now want to see the top 2 teams.
You want to see. There you go.
Chip Kelly says, I think we have the single toughest game left among the top 3 unbeatens. Don't you agree? Well, Oregon does have a tough schedule, playing Stanford today, Oregon State next week, and either USC or UCLA in the Pac-12 championship. But Kansas State has Baylor and number 15 Texas, while Notre Dame finishes its season at the Coliseum against USC. So, Jared, considering those matchups, does Oregon have the toughest single game remaining among the unbeatens?
Yes, I think they do. They actually have to go against a Stanford team today, which I think is going to be a tough matchup for them. I know they can run the ball, but Stanford has a great run defense. The only thing is for this defense is being able to pass the ball, so I think that's where Marcus Mariota takes over. But yes, this is going to be the hardest game. Plus, they have a running game, too. Stanford can run the rock, and that defense of Oregon has really been kind of suspect all year long. They've been putting up points. They really haven't been able to stop anybody.
I think Notre Dame has the single toughest game left remaining in their schedule.
Say that.
They got to go on the road to USC, and they've proven us wrong time and time again, so it's hard to kind of vote against them. But in this case, with USC being able to play at home with those 2 dynamic wide receivers, and then that quarterback being able to just pick apart that secondary, which is Notre Dame's weakest link on that defense, I think that's going to be tough, because think about what USC's playing for. I mean, they just want to ruin everybody's day. Who knows what's going to happen today against UCLA? I think they might lose. But however, I think if USC has to beat Notre Dame to continue this whole little trek that they have going on, great upside for them.
But if USC wins today and then they beat Notre Dame, then Oregon USC I think is going to be the toughest game in the Pac-12 championship.
Stanford and Oregon both have something to play for too.
We asked Sports Nation, does Oregon have the toughest single game remaining among the unbeatens?
Toughest.
Because they have the toughest schedule.
One game, I think, is tougher than those.
This is the Pac-12 for a number 1 matchup. This time it's a battle in the North. Oregon has not clinched the division title, but can punch their ticket to the championship game with a win over number 13 Stanford today. The Cardinals also control their own destiny. They could clinch the North if they win out. But Stanford has lost its last 5 trips to Eugene, with 4 coming by at least 3 touchdowns. We got Stanford or Oregon. Cards up in 3, 2, 1. Wow!
I hear the quacking going on.
A lot of love in the studio for
the Ducks.
The Ducks. And on the panel. Go ahead.
Listen, Stanford has been the victim of this Oregon offense 2 years in a row, and I think Oregon just has their number. It'll be close in the beginning like it has the past 2 years, but in the end, Oregon gets one play, big play, and then Stanford comes on the field, 3 and out. Next thing you know, before you know it, you're down 14 points. Before you know it, you're down 21 points. Stanford has to play perfect. You cannot shorten the field. You cannot give them multiple chances to score points.
Yes.
In the end, Oregon this could be 60 points.
Let me just tell you
Oregon.
this. I'll say the one thing that I've seen is that being able to have DeAnthony Thomas and Kenyon Barner in the backfield is definitely unfair for playing against any other team. But now you're adding that other element and seeing the evolution of Marcus Mariota. And what I saw from him last week, and being able to get hurt with the shoulder, come in and throw 6 touchdowns, to me, that is just showing that he's improved. This team is only getting better. I think the defense improves this weekend.
It's a lot of pressure for
Kevin
Hogan.
Too.
Yeah, that's a lot of pressure on.
Second game, redshirt freshman.
Go to Eugene.
Playing Oregon.
No, it's not happening.
It's going to be tough. We asked Sports Nation. Oregon or Stanford? 73%. Okay, so you guys both pick K-State. You both pick Oregon.
We have to show
You're not saying any of the unbeatens are going down. Rushing offense. But he's facing a great rush defense today. But is he harder to stop than John McClain? The diehard star goes to Russia to keep his son, Jack, from out of trouble. But he finds out that Jack is a CIA operative working to prevent a nuclear weapons heist. So father and son team up to make the world safe again.
That is a very intriguing story.
Harder to stop, Barner or McClain?
Kenyon Barner has been he actually been stopping himself because he's been actually getting hurt. This guy has done like 18,000 movies, and he's still going. He's trying to save his son. You can't. He's living strong. He's doing what he needs to do. This man, he's harder to stop.
You can't stop John McClane. He's like 80 years old. He's on like his 5th or 6th movie. Yippee-ki-yay. Welcome to the party, pal. Tons of quotable material. Kenyon Barner, I like him. Fast guy, nice uniforms, but no way, no how am I going to take John McClane over Kenyon.
Hey, there was Twinkies in the first
Right.
That's Die Hard. Mine is 3.
Number 1.
I'm the only one. I'm the only one.
Come on, going up. Oh, I'm defeated. Yes. High five, everybody. This is very important, especially if you're in the SEC. I know that USC guys, has the biggest influence on who plays in the national championship game. Hey, they got to play Notre Dame. If they beat UCLA today, not going to happen, Jared, they get a chance to play Oregon. That would be 2 undefeated teams that play. Number 1 team might get a chance.
Hashtag good luck.
Take a breath, Christian. Take a breath.
I know. Takes a lot out of me.
All right, time for the EA Sports Simulation of the Week. Number 2, Oregon, hosting number 13, Stanford. Here's Kenyon Barner in for the touchdown.
Kenyon Barner.
Second quarter, Marcus Mariota. You know, he should be getting more Heisman love.
Yes, he should.
But he shares it with the Anthony Thomas and Barner.
Sorry, you got
Then Braylon Addison takes it in as Oregon wins 46-24.
I don't know if it's going to be.
You don't think
like
they're going to
that.
go over 50 points?
I don't know. I just think it's going to be close.
Now, let's get it out. Eugene, Oregon, the site. Second-ranked Ducks taking on Stanford. Heather Cox is working that game tonight on ABC at 8 Eastern Time. Joining us now, Heather, I know injuries are a big concern here for Oregon. How bad is it right now for the Ducks defense?
Yeah, Dari, defense is decimated. They're really fighting through a rash of injuries, especially on that defensive line. We'll start with tackle Wade Keeley-Keepy. He is out, but the other 4 that were questionable are all expected to play. So Ricky Hemule will play, but he practiced with a brace on his right knee. Isaac Remington is expected to play, but that left leg and ankle was taped at practice. Taylor Hurt also with a left ankle practiced. And Deion Jordan's shoulder is expected to be okay, and he will play. As for the secondary, Avery Patterson is out with a knee injury, and the cupboard is so bare there that actually DeAnthony Thomas and backup quarterback Brian Bennett took snaps this week in the secondary. They're really putting that next man in philosophy that they live to by the test, or to the test.
Heather, you talk about Stanford here. I mean, they come in. Everybody still talks about Andrew Luck with the success he's having with the Colts right now. It's not easy to replace him, and Kevin Hogan is now the guy playing quarterback for this football team. How is Luck staying involved, and how has he been involved this week?
Well, they are in constant communication, Andrew Luck, with the team. In fact, Andrew Luck called David Shaw on Sunday morning to talk to him specifically about their redshirt freshman Kevin Hogan, and he said that Luck said he notices things that Stanford is doing with Hogan that are very similar to the things that Stanford did with Andrew Luck when he was new to the team. And Andrew Luck giving praise to David Shaw and saying that Hogan reminds him of a young Andrew Luck, said that it gave David Shaw, just an additional boost of confidence and just knowing that Andrew Luck believes in this kid just by watching him on film. And David Shaw jokes that he also had to rib Andrew a little bit and remind him to slide a little bit more than he is. And and that Andrew Luck, talked quite a bit about how much he misses Stanford and the team and the camaraderie as much as he's loving his NFL success. How much he's missing that college atmosphere, and to remind Kevin Hogan of that and to just soak it all in and and not be too intimidated by his first road start here in Eugene tonight.
Heather, great stuff. Good to have you aboard the Whip from Eugene. Oregon leads the FBS in offensive touchdown drives lasting 60 seconds or less. Also drives of 2 minutes or less, and 3 plays or fewer this season. But get this, Stanford's one of 5 teams that have not allowed a touchdown in less than a minute against an FBS team this season.
I think the big key is just Stanford's defense being able to try to play in space. The last few years, the one thing that's really hurt Stanford when they played Oregon is being able to contain the speed and the athletic ability of the Oregon offense. And it's the same drill with Oregon this year with Kenyon Barner and the speed that the Ducks have. They try to stretch you horizontally. They'll use formations to get you to sideline, and then they'll try to find ways to get their speed out in space. It's one thing for Stanford to have a great front seven. They have one of the best front front sevens in college football, but how will they do in the secondary when they're out there isolated one-on-one? There's been a big emphasis from Stanford in the offseason to try to get better in this area just for this game to try to defend Oregon. Today's the day we see how much improvement they've really made in that area.
Looking forward to it. Now, Johnny Manziel, as you well know, has been the talk of college football after the upset of Alabama. The Ducks quarterback, Marcus Mariota, also a redshirt freshman who could also run and pass and light it up. Who are you taking, Herbie, Manziel or Mariota?
That's a tough question because they're both outstanding. Manziel has created such a buzz after last week's game against Texas A&M. But if you look at the beginning of the year until this weekend, I'd give an edge to Marcus Mariota. I think Johnny Manziel has been outstanding. He's been fun to watch. But I don't think the nation fully appreciates and understands what Marcus Mariota is doing out here on the West Coast. I think it's his poise, the way he's distributing the football. Guy can accelerate at 6'4" downfield, so he can hurt you in this scheme, running and throwing. And of all the quarterbacks that they've had out here at Eugene, this kid's a redshirt freshman and right now is executing this offense better than any quarterback that they've ever had here with Chip Kelly. So to me, you have to give him a slight edge. And I'm surprised he's not created more attention as far as a Heisman buzz for himself. Johnny Manziel had his moment against A&M. You wonder if Marcus is going to have his moment here either against Stanford, Oregon State, or the Pac-12 championship, because he definitely deserves it.
Mariota, the #1 rated passer in the nation right now. It sounds like they can they can smell a national title out there. They ready for some football there in Oregon?
David, when in doubt, you do this, and they go crazy. They go crazy. They are fired up. Whether it's raining, cold, sleet, they're fired up.
As my man Neil Everett would say, rock with your beak out. Kirk Herbstreit in College Game Day in Duck Country today.
So there's two big hurdles, not to mention Pac-12 championship, but it'll be here in Autzen more than likely, so it's hard to imagine them losing that. But these next two, I think, are interesting. Kansas State, for me, it's the game December 1st against Texas. And I know people are saying, well, Mac Brown's team's not having a great year, but that's a game I think you have to be careful of just because Texas comes in an underdog role. They're very athletic, always have a chance to compete. And then I think for Notre Dame, it's next week, USC in the Coliseum. The firepower that Barkley and that offense bring to the table against Notre Dame on the road. Notre Dame's answered the bell all year. We'll see if they can do it next week, but that's obviously their last big hurdle.
The Irish hoping for a K-State loss and Oregon loss, something to get them into the top two. Right. Kirk Herbstreit and the College Game Day crew in a land, Eugene, where they're hoping that things remain status quo. The Oregon Ducks trying to keep it going and get to that BCS National Championship game. What we pay you for, but whatever. Okay. Let's go to this week. We got Stanford and Oregon. The Cardinal have the #1 rush defense in the nation. Can they hang with the Ducks?
They do. They can hang for a little bit, but ultimately what happens is this offense starts getting going and the defense starts to wear down. And I think Kevin Hogan, while I really liked what I've seen in terms of the tape, I don't think he's on the road, second career start, going to do enough in order to get the win. I think the Ducks roll.
Hey, seductive Miami, the season's most desirable destination. South Beach beckons. The crystal ball awaits. To secure a punch ticket, perfection is required. To make it there, you must make it everywhere. Like soggy Eugene, damp but undiminished confidence as the Stanford Cardinal come calling against the second-ranked Ducks tonight inside loud and rowdy Autzen Stadium. In South Bend, it's Wake for the Irish and Waco for the Wildcats, the new BCS #1. So what'll happen if the top three keep rolling, or perhaps all stumble? Stand by for scenarios, who's let in or left out. College Game Day from Oregon, where the Ducks' rowdy faithful are addicted to quack, and where they claim that once you go quack, you never go back.
ESPN College Game Day. To your city. Well, we're coming to your city. Will we sing out? Roll time, roll, had a ball down on the dog. And the Gators look strong. Yeah, big Suey, go Gamecocks. They all got game. Irish battle and Buckeyes and USC, Bevo too. Aggies, Huskers, let's go Dogs and TCU.
Red 17 Thunder Razor. College football can't amaze you. ESPN. Bring it, man, bring it, friends. I said it once, but I'll say it again. Get ready for the Buckeyes. We're going to roll with Chris, Lee, Desmond, David, and Kurt. Buckle your chin strap. Get ready to play. It's time to kick off College Game Day.
To your city. And if you want a little zing in your zang zang, if you want a little tang in your tang tang, come along, come along, come along, come along. Yeah, we're coming to your city.
In Eugene, Oregon, 10 minutes to sunrise above a thick blanket of clouds, rain in the forecast, but a pumped up group of Duck faithful. And there's old Doug Koke, 82 cubic inches, and his Harley Hog delivering the duck.
Yeah,
romance renewed today, huh?
That's our favorite.
Welcome to Memorial Quad, the setting for Faber College and Animal House.
Where is PJs? Don't have the PJs on this year.
Did the Lambo leap into the front row there? Good stuff. Oh, man.
That's layout.
There's really no place quite like Eugene, Oregon.
Duck surfing.
Oh, he's the best.
It's not like every other place we take the show.
It's the best.
Yeah, you gotta love it.
Love
You gotta love it.
The San Diego chicken of college mascots.
Chris Lee, Kirk, and Desmond, the Willis Billis Business Center back there. Third straight year we've been at Stanford and Oregon.
Yeah.
You got it?
17 years together now.
Yeah.
A week ago, we all sat here.
Yeah.
One of us predicted that mighty Alabama would go down to Texas A&M. Thank you, Mr. Corso, for the correct prediction. But it does make you wonder what else might happen today.
Well, the thing that I think is a reminder is remember when you're up at the top and you're undefeated.
Yeah.
It's not just you're trying to win. Because this is subjective, there's style points on the line. So teams like Notre Dame, Kansas State, and Oregon, they're not just trying to win. They're trying to look good doing it. And sometimes that's dangerous when you're playing a team that's got nothing to lose. That's when upsets happen.
Yeah, and this is new territory for Kansas State. I mean, #1 in the country, and they're going on the road, going to Baylor to take on Nick Florence and that high-powered offense. I don't know. I would be a little nervous about this if I was one of their fans. But I think there's some other great games, too. USC versus UCLA. That's a nice little grudge match. Trojans won 12 of the last 13. I think this is going to be a great game, Coach.
Yeah, but the SEC is waiting in the wings. They hope that 2 of the 3 teams undefeated go get beat.
Yeah.
Then they can go to the national championship game again.
Is that what you're hoping for? Or you just
I hope so.
Well,
another shot.
I mean, a couple of these teams, we talk about Wake Forest, Vanderbilt, or spoilers. Stanford's not a spoiler. They still control their destiny in the Pac-12 North. 4 out of the last 5 years, the winner has scored 50-plus. In the last couple of years, that has been Oregon. They've won by 21 and 23 points. Last meeting at Autzen, the Card got off to a quick start. Luck and Taylor came out smoking, led 21-3. The Ducks regrouped, shut out Stanford in the second half. 3 takeaways were huge. James and crew sprinted away late to a big win. Last season, Stanford was a home favorite, but Oregon's speed again exploited the Cardinal back 8. It was close at half, but again, the Ducks in the third quarter took over. Luck was confused and frustrated. Turnovers undid him. Probably cost him a Heisman. Here's Chip Kelly.
Coach, obviously you're nowhere near full strength on defense right now, but where is it affecting you most defensively?
The great thing about this team is it doesn't affect us, is that our philosophy has always been next guy in. Really proud of how our guys performed last week, and if any guy on our team gets called upon to play today, then they're going to go play.
All right, let's talk about their defense. Obviously an impressive front 7, but what aspect of what they do at those positions is most concerning for your offense?
There's a couple things that concerns us with them. First off is their just athletic ability, and at the linebackers, they're big, they're physical, and they can run. But they also have played for such a long time that they got a great understanding of the scheme, and they're always in the right place at the right time. So that matchup's going to be one to really watch today.
All right, we're looking forward to it. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Yeah, we love it. Injuries, they don't affect us. Losing good players like Avery Patterson, the safety, the tackle, Wade Killikippy, doesn't affect us at all. But there is some good news, Kurt. Most of those guys who sat out the Cal game or part of it are expected to play tonight.
And that's a big factor in the game is they lost their top 5 defensive linemen a week ago against Cal. 4 of those 5 are expected back. And that's big because of the style of offense that Stanford will run. And you look at this matchup, it's going to start up front in the trenches. I want to see how Oregon's defense does in containing Stephon Taylor. He's a very physical back, play action now. Redshirt freshman Kevin Hogan brings a different element here. They hope that will help them try to stay up with Kenyon Barner and the Ducks on.
Go this weekend. You realize that's when the Ducks got beat by USC.
Wow.
Oklahoma lost to Baylor, RG3, and Oklahoma State was stunned by Iowa State. So where might the trap lie for a top 3 team today?
Right here. Yes, sir.
Right here.
Stanford is the most physical team that Oregon's played. The question is, can the Ducks stay up with Stanford, especially in this rain? Rain and strength advantage Stanford.
You just asked, can the Ducks stay up with Stanford?
Yes.
Okay. That's a new one. I haven't heard that.
Because of rain.
Because of the rain
and physicality.
Okay. I think Stanford's front 7 is a big factor, being able to stop the run. But the big thing that we all want to see is how could Stanford play on the perimeter. They've really made that an emphasis the entire offseason, that's just to come into this game.
Right.
Like Monty Kiffin did. We're going to downsize. We're going to get faster to deal with Chip Kelly. Yeah. Stanford's thinking, we're tired of getting out in space and Oregon leaving us with guys like DeAnthony Thomas. We're going to get faster. Well, that's the blueprint. Now we're going to have a chance to see if, in fact, they are faster.
A time of strange bedfellows. Johnny Manziel once verbally committed to Oregon, then he decommitted, went to A&M. Made Chip Kelly really mad at the time. Manziel goes and beats Alabama. Up comes Oregon today. Lake Seastrunk, who was a running back here, headed out. He plays for Baylor. Might he help?
Duck trying to down at Baylor. That's right.
Exactly.
You got the SEC people you mentioned, hoping that Lane Kiffin, who wasn't their favorite guy, when he coached briefly at Tennessee, maybe he can knock off Notre Dame. Maybe he can knock off Oregon.
The SEC champ out?
Yes, sir.
It is strange.
It's a strange thing. But
Very
the SEC
strange.
is the one that is sneaking around the chicken coop and waiting.
4
The
through
SEC.
9.
Can the SEC really sneak around? Yeah, the 6th straight team. A year without an SEC team in the championship game. It's really up to the top 3 because they'll be shut out if they keep winning. We'll talk much more about these scenarios here. Oh, the Duck. Rumor has it he lost his head skydiving yesterday. We may or may not have video evidence of that, but he's tough, he's resilient, and they don't talk about injuries or things like that here at Oregon, right? So he bounces right back.
Exactly. Next man up.
Meanwhile, Samantha will reveal how an off-season trip to Africa by Ducks boss Chip Kelly changed his perspective on football. College Game Day from soggy Eugene, coming right back.
Doing. That's the power of the Home Depot. And in part by Russell Athletic, who reminds you that together we are. And Kellogg's Frosted Flakes cereal. They're great.
What altitude does a duck typically fly? 7,000 feet?
Yes.
This is yesterday.
Oh, what was that?
Oh, that was the head.
Oh,
man. It seemed like a good idea at the time.
Exactly.
Wow.
That's not a good look.
It was recovered
That's
in one piece in a farm field later yesterday.
How they ever found that? Man.
Like I said, he's resilient. Log on to ESPN.com, search Chevrolet to play virtual Saturday selection. Stay tuned. Prediction.
Yes.
And our youngest ever guest picker. History of this show.
Should be interesting.
Speaking of young at heart, David Pollack, answer your tweets. Hashtag #AskGameDay. And there is the duck. Duck is everywhere. There's an extra charge for that. Jump up there with the foot. We talked about this week being crucial in the history of the BCS. You realize in the BCS era since 93, or 98, I should say, the top 3 teams in the final 3 weeks of the season have lost 16 times.
Wow.
In general, they've handled the showdown games pretty well.
Yeah.
It's been those sneaky games.
Get your hand. College Game Day, live from Eugene, Oregon, is brought to you in high definition by Vizio.
There's the Duck, head reattached. Huddles in rare form. This is his kind of weather. Sees it, real fan can. Zooming over this excellent crowd that has just turned their Friday night into a Saturday morning. Appreciate that.
Austin Stadium is one of the toughest environments to play in. That overhang above the stadium, that sound reverberates right back down on the field where you are.
The whole game, you can't hear the snap call, can't hear audibles or anything like that. You pretty much just watching the ball.
Can't even hear yourself think. I mean, that's probably the loudest place that we've ever been.
They hate you. They don't even know, but they hate you, and it's great.
Nowhere else in the country yells "oh" the whole entire time, so some different sound.
It's one of those home field advantages that you have to prepare for. You have to prepare for at your own place with your own noise machines, etc.
If you can get a win in Eugene, you can get a win anywhere.
Aerial coverage being provided by the MetLife blimp. See how MetLife can provide the coverage you need. MetLife, I can do this. It'll be zooming around over Austin where it's going to be chilly, down to the 40s, rainy, off and on, windy. Other than that, really pleasant. But these fans will bring that noise against the first-time road starter, Kevin Hogan. Definitive way to rate a team's strength, but Las Vegas says the Irish would be underdogs against Kansas State by 3.5, double-digit against the Ducks and the Crimson Tide. Georgia be favored. Florida, 2-loss LSU will be favored. A&M South Carolina, all those SEC teams that are behind Notre Dame in the BCS rankings would be on a neutral field favorite. Now, Irish are arguing that they belong in the top 2 with the Ducks and Kansas State. Other people believe they don't belong even as high as number 3. What do you say?
Well, tell me, the point spread, the same guys that said A&M was a 14-point underdog to Alabama?
They are the same people.
Well, no team in America deserves to be, with one loss, deserves to be ahead of Notre Dame. Why? Because their schedule. They have beaten them and at least one team in every major conference in the country except the SEC. And they're #1 in scoring defense in the entire country. And we know SEC proven defense wins championships. So they deserve to be where they are.
Eugene, Oregon, after this.
Every home game, Oregon Duck rides a motorcycle into the stadium. And if we can pass the test, he's going to take us on a ride.
Will and Robbie tackle another challenge on the way to Saturday.
So they've given us a challenge. Okay, now you guys look the part?
Yep.
If you want to ride with the Duck, there's one thing you're going to have to do. Drop down and give me 100.
100 what?
Push-ups.
He's the strongest duck in the world.
Well, you know what? We have an app for this. This is correct push-up form.
Yeah, bring the heat.
I tell you, there's nothing in the app about a duck on the back.
Get him, Will! You've now earned the right to ride with a duck. I'm Hooter.
Nice to meet you, Hooter.
Ride with the duck, Will! We're going to game day! We're going to game day!
More videos and your chance to win tickets are at waytosaturday.com.
Just say hi. Nice to meet you. Can I buy you a slice of bread?
College Game Day is brought to you by AT&T. Now for Will and Robbie from On the Way to Saturday and the Twitter sign of the week.
There's some clever kids up there in Oregon. I like that one. Chip Kelly, mouth moving quickly. That's a good one. That's a good one. That game ball. Why did they just play it? That was just a one-time thing, right? That was against Oregon.
Look at Rain.
Super Mariota. He's joined that Heisman conversation.
Sure has.
Talk more about the Heisman coming up. Kevin Hogan doesn't recycle. Oh, I suppose are fighting words. Wow, that is serious trash talk. The winning sign, the Tide choked on my other sign. Oh, that's not very nice.
Yeah, that is not nice.
Hashtag DGD signs. A month until the Heisman Trophy presentation. We'll handicap the race, tell you who the front runner should be. Super Mariota beginning to wedge his way into the conversation. Barner a candidate as well. College Game Day from Eugene coming right back. Laid back Northwest. That inside out, so they get those decimal meters. One of the loudest places in college football, right? Yeah. Acoustically. Yes. If two of them lose, what, the SEC champion against the one survivor? What about doomsday scenario? All three of the top three lose in the next 3 weeks. Could happen.
Yes, I think if all three teams lose, I think number one would be Alabama because they're the national champion and their defense. And then against Oregon. Yes, sir.
Despite a loss.
Alabama, they lost. Alabama against Oregon for the national championship. Offense versus defense. Whew, made in heaven.
We really have, without a graphic here, it's hard to explain what we're talking about. You're talking about the top three right now losing. 4 plays 5 in the SEC championship, so let's just say 5's out. 6 is going to eventually lose to Florida State. That's Florida, so 6 is out. So I think Lee is right. I think you're looking at the SEC champion versus who's going to be most forgiven. Oregon for their loss, Kansas State for their loss last game against Texas, or Notre Dame for their loss to USC. I think you're right.
Like Florida jumping in, but despite that,
I think Florida's going to lose to Florida State. So that's a tough scenario for voters, especially after last year with the whole SEC and the national championship. So I think you're right. I think it'd be Alabama and Oregon.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that, especially if Oregon loses, if they lose today and they beat Oregon State and they get to the Pac-12 championship and they win there, I think there's going to be Oregon and Alabama too. I mean, I think it's a no-brainer. But I wouldn't be surprised if somehow Notre Dame got in there through the back door.
Even if they lose.
If they got, I mean, everyone lost, right? Everyone lost. Everyone had one else. It'll be interesting.
I think that's where style points would really come into play. How did you lose?
Exactly.
How did you lose? Did you get blown out?
Yeah. Who did you lose to?
Yeah.
But none of you guys are not predicting.
How would you vote?
You're not predicting. I think you have to wait and see how they lose, how they look. I mean, you're saying that Oregon could afford a loss today.
I don't think we're
at the championship game.
I don't think we're predicting that all three of these teams are going to lose. But
it's
under that,
hypothetical.
It's a crazy scenario.
Hypothetical.
It's a crazy scenario.
The Cheez-It Real Fan Can is brought to you by Cheez-It. Tell us your future of fandom idea, and you could win $10,000 and the ultimate college game day experience. Visit ESPN.com/Cheez-It.
Cheez-It, Real Fan of the Week, salutes the Duck Nut. Now, Tom Finner is not a Duck graduate. He is from Portland. He's been on The Tonight Show. He's been on Ellen's show. And he's taken 30,000 pictures with Oregon fans nationwide. He's been a season ticket holder since the 70s, which means he sat in the rain and watched a lot of Oregon losses. But no longer. From the Duck Nut to the Duck Coach, Samantha. Chip Kelly, like a lot of college football coaches, really encourages his players to get involved with charitable causes. He's got a local one, there's a national one, and there's even a global cause, one that you might not associate with a college football team.
Yeah, anybody who spent time around Chip Kelly knows he does things a little differently. So no one should have been surprised when he picked up and went to Kenya and Ethiopia in May without even telling his coaching staff. Now, obviously, one of the most visible coaches in all of college sports took some time to help some of the invisible, the young girls in villages in Africa that are often ignored.
Every day was just an eye-opening experience of seeing the world through a different set of lenses. There was no one complaining about their lot in life. Everybody had a smile on their face. They just enjoyed being alive. It's amazing how much untapped human potential there is. And if people just wrap their arms around that, they can really affect change in the world.
My name is Chip. Thank you for having us.
So when did you decide that you wanted to go yourself?
I saw a video about the girl effect, and it was kind of amazing to watch. It just struck me, what an unbelievable idea to target adolescent girls and to try to educate them. But I didn't understand it enough until I could kind of see it firsthand. So I think making the trip itself just opened my eyes.
Tell me about some of the interactions you had with the girls you met.
Our first day, we spent a day with a 17-year-old girl named Amabet, who woke up every morning at 3 a.m. to study, and she studied by the light from her cell phone. She didn't have a father. Her mother was ill. She did all the farming and really taking care of an entire family, and just kind of amazed at what her life was like, and that was just day one.
So I lived on the other side of the country, and then I moved over here.
This one program that we visited in Nairobi was called Box Girls, where this former boxer named Priest empowering young girls by teaching them boxing skills. And then to watch them train and work out in this abandoned parking lot, you're watching them amazed at how excited they were, how much they had a passion for what they were doing.
In this area, obviously, and all over the country, people know who you are. What was it like for you to have an experience where you just were entirely removed from the world you live in?
It was refreshing. What we do is fun. What we do is a blast. The real heroes are the little girls in Africa that are trying to better themselves so that they can help their families. When I hear college coaches or pro coaches or anybody talk about how hard their workday is, and then when I hear about a coach saying we're grinding, and I'm like, you're sitting in a room with air conditioning watching videotape. That's not grinding.
When you experience something like that, how does it change the way football fits on your priority list?
Good question. Football's always high on my priority list because that's my passion and that's my chosen profession, but I also saw some things over there that you just, wow. You know, it's hard to fathom if you didn't really see it in person, but they all have such a positive outlook. Maybe they have the secret and we don't.
Maybe they do, Coach. Chip Kelly has talked to his team a ton about not being turkey guys, a guy that buys turkeys for poor or homeless families around Thanksgiving, but doesn't help out the rest of the year, isn't really invested. One of his guys that is invested is offensive lineman Carson York. I talked to Carson a lot about this effort, Girl Effect, and what he's doing to try and change the mentality on this team, a team who he says is completely buying in to this message. This year, they're trying to add the girls' names to the back of their practice jerseys to remind them every day how lucky they are to be able to play football and enjoy all that they do right here in Eugene, Oregon.
There's a good video online if you want to learn more about Girl Effect. And Kelly told me he wants to go back to Africa. Of course, tonight he's going to be trying to coach up that Ducks offense that has just ripped up Stanford the last couple of years. Look at the rushing yards per game. This is just after halftime. The turnover margin extremely effective. The offense has been ripping things up. Mariota takes over the reins. Leader passing efficiency. 377 and 6 touchdowns versus Cal despite a scare with a shoulder injury. Last 3 games, 12 touchdowns, 14 incompletions. Wow. Meanwhile, Kevin Hogan, promoted to starter last week against Oregon State, had the game winner to Zach Ertz in the final 5 minutes, but tonight is his first road start, most difficult road environment in the Pac-12. Mariota and Hogan were once together at the Oregon camp, as was Johnny Manziel, who decommitted. Braxton Miller, also part of an amazing class of dual threat quarterbacks. Hogan has got to try to avoid the kind of mistakes that have undone Andrew Luck the last couple of years against the Ducks. 5 turnovers. Super Mariota, meanwhile, the chilled Hawaiian in quiet command. The Ducks are the top scoring and rushing offense. And against Stanford, those 7 touchdowns of 40-plus yards and 14 touchdown drives of less than 2 minutes in the last 3 years. They're making ball control meaningless. Can the Cardinal front 7 invade the backfield? They've been doing it all year. Can they do it tonight?
The most troubling thing for a defense when it comes to our offense is facing our speed. They do a great job of looking at what you're doing and taking advantage of it. And you can slow them down for a while, but if one guy's out of position, we're going to make you pay.
We have so many playmakers all over the field. You can't really just key in on one guy because, you know, if you key on one guy, then the other guy's going to be open.
Well, we've got guys that can play. Got guys that are tough, guys that are physical.
Stanford's front seven is unreal. They got guys up front that can really just penetrate and create havoc.
You know, our guys have a knack of getting to the quarterback, whether it's in a blitz or just running some stunts.
The biggest challenge facing Stanford's defense is making sure that you identify, the rushers, who's coming, who's not coming. They're extremely effective in when they blitz and, when they're rushing the quarterback.
They got some Sunday players in that Stanford defense. They held the Beavers under 100 yards rushing at #party in the backfield on Twitter, but they need to have a big party tonight in the backfield to prevent Oregon's offense.
Huge party. Animal-type party, right? I love this defense. When you watch them play, they're very aggressive. They're great against the run. And using the Home Depot coach's playbook, I'm going to show you 3 plays that illustrates exactly what they like to do on defense. Here it is against USC. Watch the nose tackle, the defensive tackle. They're going to slant real hard to the inside. Defensive tackle Ben Gardner slanted so quick that he beats the right guard and right tackle to make a tackle in the backfield. That's why they're #1 in the country in tackles for loss. Now watch this blitz. I expect to see this a lot tonight. The 2 down linemen plus a linebacker, they're going to occupy the center and the guard, leaving a huge hole for Chase Thomas to run through on the blitz and deliver one of those just teeth-shattering hits on the quarterback. And big Trent Murphy, he's a linebacker. Watch how he uses his hands right here. Great technique. Keeps the right tackle off of his body, reads the quarterback's eyes, tips the ball to him for a pick 6. He starts the big man sprint to the end zone. Trust me, he makes it. Great play by Trent Murphy. These guys are more athletic than they're given credit for, and they're #1 in the country in sacks and against the rush. Coach, I think this group is going to have to step up big if Stanford's going to have a chance tonight to win this game.
Well, anytime you lead the nation in scoring, have a quarterback can throw 10 touchdown passes in 2 weeks, have a running back averages 8 yards per carry, your offensive line is doing a great job, I guarantee you. Now, pass protection. Mariota has completed 70% of his passes. Look at that protection. Now, the run blocking. You'll see the run blocking. Varner is 3rd in the nation in scoring and 4th in rushing. They get good position and they move quickly, and there they go, boom, right through. Now, Oregon has beaten Stanford 9 out of 10 times. And they now lead the nation with 13 straight wins. Pretty good team.
We'll leave it at that. We'll leave it at that. The big thing about Stanford is not just their defense playing in space in this game. It's this redshirt freshman quarterback, Kevin Hogan. He's inspired them, I think, the last couple weeks, provided a spark. And all of a sudden, this offense for Pep Hamilton's starting to look a little bit different. It's because they can go play action now. There's Zach Ertz. Everybody knows they want to throw it to him, including Oregon State. They have 2 defenders on him. He can dump it down to the tight end, Ryan Hewitt. He gets all the way in there. But this play action game, because of the mobility of Hewitt, is what opens that up. Or from Hogan. Here's Hogan where the play breaks down. He's looking to his right. Things aren't working out. He keeps the play alive, dumps it down to the tailback, Stephon Taylor, who makes people miss, takes that all the way to the end zone for a touchdown. Again, the mobility of Hogan keeping this play alive and giving them a chance. This will be a big key tonight. They're going to try to get Zach Ertz isolated one-on-one. See how Ertz goes to the outside? Outside release creates the space to the middle. The safety's off to the right. Puts the ball right into that space for a touchdown. The one-on-one opportunities for Zach Ertz in this game will be big. The other thing is Stanford, they've got to protect the ball. Last week with this young quarterback at home, they had 4 turnovers. If they have 4 turnovers in this game, they have no shot of winning the game. They've got to protect the ball. The other thing is they got to score in the red zone. Against Oregon, the way they score, you can't kick field goals. They need touchdowns.
Yeah. Kirk, that's been the problem in their 2 losses. Washington, Notre Dame, 6 red zone trips, no touchdowns, and also moving the chains, converting on 3rd down on those 2 losses, just 11 of 34. So Hogan tonight, freshman, first road start. Those big physical Stanford linebackers. Desmond, first crack at this game. What happens here?
Well, I think that's the key. I think Kevin Hogan, he's going to have to make some plays. He can make some plays with his feet. He's very mobile, and that's an added dimension they didn't have with quarterback Josh Nunes. But I think that Oregon's defense, they're fast, they're aggressive. I think they're going to get after Stanford's offense. And, of course, Oregon's offense will score a lot of points. So I have Oregon winning a nice game.
Real big? Real big?
Yeah, real big.
Closer than the experts?
Yeah, I think real big.
People are saying they're 3-touchdown favorite in the game tonight, which is about what they've won by the last couple of years.
Oh.
Well, we'll see what Mr. Corso has to say. Puddles may or may not be an evidence.
What are you doing?
He's at the lectern there.
Oh, okay. All right.
And Our guest picker, who's almost as old as his jersey number, 5.5-year-old Braden Pape. He was up here singing last year. We'll see if he can pick as well as he can sing. Braden was just a young lad a year ago, 4.5. Hey. Now he's 5.5. We thought we'd try something here. The biggest college game day fan in the world, right? And I know the Ducks are your favorite team. Who's your second favorite team?
Colorado.
Oh, wow. I knew I loved the kid.
That was for you. He was you.
Do you like to be sad? We're not doing so well. Good basketball team this year.
Yeah, they beat Baylor in basketball last night.
High five for that. We're going to talk football, though.
Guys are amazing.
Saturday selection, ESPN.com. Search Chevrolet to play along. Braden, are you ready? Lafayette and Lehigh. They played every year but once since 1884. That's a long time ago, right? Who's going to win, Lafayette or Lehigh today?
Lehigh.
The Engineers.
Good pick.
All right.
Not only that, great pencil. I go with Lehigh, too.
I'm going to go with Braden. I like Lehigh. I'm going to go with Lehigh.
Harvard needs some help. They got to get Cornell to upset Penn to win the Ivy League title. As you know, do you get good grades in school? You got to have really good grades to get into Harvard or Yale. Who wins on the football field today, Braden?
Harvard or Yale?
Go Bulldogs.
Yale Bulldogs.
Yale Bulldogs.
Oh, wow.
Not so fast, midget. Not so fast.
Midget?
Yeah, little guy. Hey, not so fast. I go with Harvard. What's the matter?
I'm going to go with Harvard.
Yeah, see,
I'm going to go with Harvard as well.
How are your grades? Good enough.
Yeah, how are your grades?
You know it's a huge game in the WAC, right, Braden? Louisiana Tech, Utah State. They've lost 3 games by 7 points total, so they're pretty good teams. Louisiana Tech or Utah State?
Utah State.
Oh, you got a reason or just Utah State?
I got a reason. I think they're going to be good rivals of Utah.
Okay. Congratulations. That was a perfect pick. Utah State wins.
I like Utah State, too.
Yeah,
their quarterback, Chucky Keaton, a little underrated. I think he plays well today.
Triple not so fast. You like the other Bulldogs? I like these Bulldogs.
There you go.
Louisiana Tech.
Sonny Dykes.
USC and UCLA. Now, the last time UCLA won, you were probably pooping in your diapers. It was 5 years ago. Who's going to win this one today?
UCLA.
Oh, okay. UCLA ends the streak.
Oh, man. Not so fast again. Terrible pencil. I got UCLA. USC wins this one.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm with Marquise Lee getting it done with Matt Barkley against the defense of the Bruins.
I'm going UCLA because I think I really want Oregon to play them in the Pac-12 championship.
My heavens. I mean,
I bet you do.
Or me.
I bet you do.
After last year, you want another piece.
You like defense? Rutgers and Cincinnati, 2 contenders in the Big East. Who wins, Rutgers or Cincinnati Bearcats?
Go Bearcats.
All right.
Third time. Not so fast. Rutgers.
I'm with you. Rutgers. Rutgers in the defense and Juwan Jamison.
You may not realize this, Braden, but it's a pretty big deal when Vanderbilt is favored over Tennessee by 4 points. The Volunteers or the Commodores today?
I'm going Volunteers.
Tennessee wins.
Wow.
Upset.
I hate to say not so fast, but Vanderbilt.
Vanderbilt.
We'll kill him.
Absolutely. And James Franklin trying to get maybe 8 wins.
I like Smokey.
You like Smokey. That's why you went to Tennessee. Makes perfect sense to me. That's like LC. That's how he makes picks. Go Smokey.
Smokey's having a bad year, though. Yep. 2 coaches that sometimes get mad at each other. Ohio State and Wisconsin. Meyer and Bielema. Who wins the game?
Sorry, Kirk. Wisconsin!
Yeah. Great pick. That's the way they give it to them. Yeah. Wisconsin was a great pick.
I think Ohio State's defense, and Braxton Miller. Watch out for number 5.
Boo.
I like Ohio State.
How can you go against him?
Sorry, Kirk. Kansas State's ahead of Oregon in the BCS. They're number 1. They're taking on Baylor. A couple of key injuries. Zimmerman and Lockett unlikely to play. What about Kansas State, the Purple Cats, against the Baylor Bears?
Baylor.
Wow.
Why? Baylor? Are you sure?
Why?
Because I want Notre Dame to play Oregon in the national championship.
Oh, he's got it.
So you can blow him out.
Yes. I hate to do this. I got to go with Kansas State, man.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what he's talking about.
I'm going to go Kansas State, too. I think Kansas State wins big.
I can tell you watch Game Day a lot. Do you know what the word agenda means? These guys make a lot of picks because they have agendas. You got an agenda here this morning.
He does have
I applaud that.
Yeah.
Oklahoma and West Virginia. The Mountaineers got off to a great start. Now they've lost 4 in a row. How do you see that one, Braden?
Oklahoma.
On the road.
Oklahoma, good pick.
Because they're a really fast team.
Absolutely.
Hey, Oklahoma, because they're a really fast team.
And because West Virginia has to play defense. Another good reason.
Another game, it could be a lot of points scored. Do you like high-scoring games, Braden? Do you like high-scoring games? Texas Tech and Oklahoma State. You know what the score last year was? 66-6. So Texas Tech should be mad. They're going to win?
No.
Oklahoma State.
I'm from Oregon. I like their OSU.
Whatever reasons I have.
Yes.
Oklahoma State. That's a reason.
And that and Chelf, the quarterback.
No.
That's a funny joke, isn't it?
He likes Oregon State, too. The other OSU said that's his second favorite team, but not the Ohio State University. All right, now to this game right here, the game that Braden cares most about. These folks care most about. Can Oregon make it another beatdown of Stanford? The Cardinal, not just spoilers. Remember, they control their destiny in the North Division of the Big 12. What happens in prime time? Kirk, of course, you're calling the game, so give us a key.
Kevin Hogan, a redshirt freshman in this atmosphere, how does he handle the atmosphere? It's going to be very, very difficult to manage this offense. This kid's got a lot of ability. And then also, how does Stanford tackle in space? I think that's another big one.
Braden, you've been waiting all morning to make this pick. I see you brought your own headgear here, right? So who's going to win, Oregon or Stanford?
Come on, Ducks!
Yeah!
Homemade headgear, Mr. Cole.
Oh, man!
He's got his own going, too.
I can't beat that. Let me have my duck head.
Whoa!
Here we come again. Here we go. We're killing him. We're killing him with the Ducks.
We know Mr. Herbstreit doesn't like live birds.
Let's go!
Oh, my goodness.
Go, Duck!
We've got guests.
Come on, go!
Braden, this is called Gangnam Style. This is called Gangnam Style, Braden, if you didn't know.
I know that.
He knew that. He knew that. He's seen the video.
He's still got his own going.
Whoa! Oh, we got the feathers are flying. Enjoying your football Saturday. The bromance continues in Eugene. Off to the big house. Hawkeyes, the Wolverines. Dave Pash and Ryan Freese.
Oh, my God. Get that duck